Welcome to my YouTube channel, From the Village to the Netherlands. Just imagine born in a poor village to poor parents, struggling in primary school, walking for 15 kilometers to go to school and walking back 15 kilometers to go back to the house, and never seen a girl go beyond primary school to high school. That is exactly me. And that's why I want to share my story to encourage someone, and also my YouTube channel as a goal of starting a girls' education foundation back in the same village, just to support those girls from poor parents who cannot continue with their high school simply because their parents cannot afford to pay for them school fees. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel, give me a like, and through that you're going to help me accomplish this big dream. So today I want to share with you my struggles from primary school to the high school, and when I was the second year in my high school, I almost got married. In my previous video, I talked about how we were raised 10 children from my parents, and in a primary school, we sat for the national exam with my 2 brothers and my 1 sister, and I managed to score the highest marks, and actually not only in that school, but in the whole village, because there were also other schools. So it came a time for me to go to high school, and my parents not rich, they could not 4 of us to high school, so they had to make a choice, and they chose me, and not because I was their favorite child, but because I'd scored the highest marks and I was called to one of the best national schools in Kenya. So how did they manage to take me to high school? They had spared some little money. Of course, they used to get their money from farming, from selling cows, from selling goats. I was so lucky because my father knew the importance of education, because his brother had gone beyond primary school, secondary school, university, and the time I was going to high school, my uncle was in Korea. He had gotten some scholarships and he was there studying. So at least for my parents, knew the importance of educating a child. Not like the other parents from that village. They thought that educating a girl was a waste of their time and their money. In fact, they believed women, girls, are supposed to be at home, giving birth to babies, getting married, and doing work in the farm. But I was so lucky because at least my parents knew the importance of educating children. My parents took me to the high school, and it was a total experience than what I had experienced back in my village. The high school was in a different county, and we had to go by a bus for around 250 kilometers. And it was a different experience for me because, one, I had never interacted with other girls who cannot speak my mother's language. So that was my first time to be in a group of girls who are speaking their mother languages, or they speak Swahili or English. And I never spoke English in my mother's village simply because there were no one to speak with. Fine, in school we could be told in English, but the teachers could also explain further in our mother's language. So it was a total experience in high school, meeting girls from the different tribes, because in Kenya we have 42 tribes, and because it was a national school, among the best, they get girls from different counties, from different tribes. Experience for me to start speaking Swahili. If I couldn't speak Swahili, there was no communication. So that was one of the challenges I faced, but within no time I had adjusted and everything became a little bit better, you know. And another challenge I faced is that I really missed my parents. Since I was born, I'd never gone for a day or 2 days without seeing my parents or my siblings. But this is high school. In high school, in boarding schools in Kenya, the students stay in school for 3 months, and then after 3 months, they go back for vacation for 1 month. So I stayed there for 3 months without seeing my mother, without seeing my father or my sisters and my brothers. And I was so stressed. I had homesick. It was just too much. But again, as I said, I got used to it, and it started becoming better and better. Another challenge I faced in first year in high school, it's when it came to visiting, you know. At the middle of the term, parents are supposed to come and visit their children, and my parents could not come because that they were to pay a lot of money to travel all the way from the village to the city where the school was. So there was no one in the entire 4 years I spent in high school who came to visit me. So when other parents were coming to visit their girls, it was all a problem for me, and it was so stressful because I could see them, the parents come carrying food, carrying a lot of shopping. But for me, I was just going back to the dormitory. I go to my bed and I sleep. Actually, I was not sleeping. I was pretending that I'm sleeping. But I was crying because I was like, why? But anyway, I knew my parents cannot afford. Those are some of the challenges I faced when I reported to high school the first term. But again, the second term, it was a little bit better because every time I was getting used to the environment, and yeah, and I started appreciating that at least I'm in high school. So my first term in high school, my second term and third term, because 1 year has 3 terms, I can say apart from the challenges I've mentioned, when it came to school fees, everything was okay. My parents could pay without any problem. But now the problem started when I went to my second year in high school. I guarantee that it's going to rain for the 2 seasons we have in Kenya. So I remember very well that season. It begins around October when I was in my third term in high school, that is Form 1. I remember well, it never rained in October, and that season it was so bad because we did not have anything on the farms. So that means there was what we call famine, and we had no food. my parents could not have food to sell so that they can pay my school fees. So it came my second year in high school. First time I reported, but I went with half of the school fees, and my parents promised to come and pay the rest. But they never came to pay because they did not have. So I had to be chased to go back home so that I can come with a balance. So when I went home, I found my parents there, but they did not have money. So they said, you go sit here and we are going to look where we can get some money. But it happened that the whole term I was at home. I did not go back to school and I stayed there. It was so stressing for me because I really wanted to break that culture of girls just not dropping schools at primary school, not going to high school. It was so stressing because I knew the fact that my parents cannot afford my school fees. I cannot see the chance of finishing my high school. So that was a total stress. And I could see myself getting married, having babies, as my friends and also the other girls they were doing. So I stayed at home for the entire year, not going to school because I did not have school fees. Because I was so determined to accomplish my goal just of finishing high school, I told my mother I have to start looking for casual work so that I can work and save some money to pay for my school fees. So I could go with my mother and my brothers, then we look for the work far from where my home was, where we have at least rich people, you know. They were also rich people, but not close to our village. So we could bike there with my brothers. I did not know to bike, but I could get into the seat of my brother's bike, and then we go there, and then the whole day we are there cultivating or doing some small jobs, and then we get paid. And that money I was saving, and my mother was also doing the same work, and we are saving the money. At least after that 1 year, we had already saved some money to pay for my first term. But now I had to go. I was supposed to be in Form 2, but for that, because in Form 2, I only went for like half a term. I had to repeat it again. And the money we had worked for with my mama, she used to pay for my school fees, at least for the first term in Form 2. Again, remember, I've wasted 1 good year back at home, looking for small jobs, helping my mother to raise the school fees. So when I went back to school, my classmates were already in Form 3, but now I go to Form 2, but it never bothered me because I had a goal to make sure that at least I will be the first girl to have gone beyond primary school. So the first term in Form 2 was okay because school fees was paid, and the second term, it was not paid full. Again, it was half, and again I had to be chased, and I went back home. But I had to repeat the same process again of going to look for jobs with my mother and my brothers, and then saving the money, because my mother was also working while I was in school, but the little she was getting, she was also buying food with that money. It could not be saved, all of it, for my school fees. So it was struggle here and there. So in Form 2 second term, I was back again home because I did not have school fees. Then I told my mother, I think I'm going to stop going to school because I cannot see myself finishing, because I already had like 2.5 years to finish high school. So I stopped there and I just continued helping my mother to raise the other children because they were still young. But it is just amazing how a total stranger came to my life and rescued me. That will be my next video. I'm going to talk how I met this total stranger who paid for my school fees for 2.5, and he changed completely everything. So please, if my story has touched you, just subscribe, give me a comment, and work with me to help me accomplish this dream of starting a girls' education foundation back in that village, just to make a difference in a girl's life. Thank you so much.